Welcome back to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. So today I want to talk about this historical figure. His name's Meir Kahane. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. And the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because he created this political philosophy and a political party that was ended up being banned and became a terrorist organization and all that, which was the precursor to the Jewish Power Party in Israel. And I want to do an episode on Tuesday, upcoming next week, about why Christians would support a Jewish Power Party. But to understand that, you got to kind of understand the history of it. And I think it's kind of fascinating, there's gonna be a lot of assassinations and stuff like that. But I think it's interesting to understand where it's coming from because we've had multiple episodes that have come up with this. When we had Baruch Goldstein and he went into the mosque and slaughtered all the Muslims who were in prayer, he was a Kahanist. I'm not sure about the Yitzhak Rabin assassin, but he basically absorbed a lot of far right wing stuff that would lead him to think that in the way Kahane would think. And so I'm not sure if that can be fully attributed to him, but it's that kind of thinking. And this guy's like an ethno-nationalist. He's a Zionist. But let's talk. Okay, let's start at the beginning. So he's born in 1932. Okay, and he gets a law degree in New York. He gets his ordained as a rabbi, and he's just like a regular pulpit rabbi, and he's always a hardliner and in promoting violence and stuff like that. So in the United States, what he said was anti-Semitism should be met with like extreme violence. This is what he promotes. He saw a lot of people in New York getting there was a lot of black Jewish tensions and a lot of Jewish victims. And he wanted, instead of Jews looking like weak kind of people, he wanted them to be really strong and tough, and which is an okay thing. But then he wanted to do it through just going out and doing violence on people. And so basically, in 1968, he founded the Jewish Defense League, the JDL, right? And its purpose is to fight anti-Semitism. The problem is they're fighting it in the way that they're not like lobbying politicians to serve another country. They're going out to do violence, right? And so several JDL members, including Kahane, were subsequently convicted of acts related to domestic terrorism, including leading the attack on the Soviet United Nations mission in 1975. Later the same year, Kahane was convicted of conspiring to kidnap a Soviet diplomat, bomb the Iraqi embassy in Washington, and ship arms abroad from Israel. He consequently served a 1 year in prison, albeit in a hotel. So you can see the kind of stuff that they were into. And in 1971, he's going to move to Israel. Of course, I mean, he's terrible to have in our country, of course, And so he develops this ideology, and the ideology is called Kahanism. And basically, he took all of that fight in the United States against anti-Semitism, and then when he got to Israel, this is when he becomes an ethno-nationalist. They call it like a theocratic nationalism, but it's akin to an ethno-nationalism because the problem is they don't have an ethnicity. There is no such thing as an ethnic Jew, which is why they make it difficult for you to get DNA tests in Israel, because it's going to be kind of rough when they find out that there's no Jews in Israel, right? There's Semites and then there's a bunch of Europeans, but there's just no Jews. And so then basically they're trying to bind each other to their religion, but pretend like it's that only one ethnic group's allowed, even though it's not a real thing. So anyways, so basically the Kahanism, the view is that Arabs living in Israel are the enemies of Jews and Israel itself. This is the ethno-nationalism stuff, but it's the bad version of it, kind of like we were talking about on Tuesday. And because I'm an ethno-nationalist, and I don't view all the people who aren't of my ethnicity as enemies around me. I think, it's, I'm going with the homogeneity. That's where I'm going politically. But I don't see them as enemies. I see it as incompatibility. So, and he believed that a Jewish theocratic state where non-Jews have no voting rights should be created. Beyond this part, if you change Jewish theocratic to ethnic and then put any ethnicity in there, I'm totally on board with this, So So he creates this political party, and I'm gonna call it the Kach Party. That's what I'm gonna call it. It's Kach. I'm just gonna call it Kach because I literally don't know how to. And this is the precursor to Otzma Yehudit, which is the Jewish Power Party, which is currently in power today in a coalition. And we're going to talk about that one on Tuesday. Okay, so he forms this Kach Party, and the platform of the party calls for the annexation of all conquered territories and the forcible removal of all Palestinians. So this is 1971. So we've already done the 6-Day War right here. We've already done that in 67, USS Liberty and all that. That's all been done. So Israel has expanded a significant amount in 67. And so they're talking about Gaza, they're talking about East Jerusalem, and they're talking about the West Bank. And I'm not sure the status of Golan Heights right then, but maybe Golan Heights as well. I'm not sure. Maybe that came later. And the forcible removal of all Palestinians, which goes to make it an ethnic state. So under the auspices of Kach, his political party, Kahane continued to lobby for his beliefs in violent ways and was jailed on several occasions. This is in Israel. He was the first Jew in Israel ever to be accused of sedition. So that's interesting. So then he's going to decide he's doing this. He's created this political party. So he's going to run for the Knesset. The Knesset is their legislative body, right? So he ran in 1976. Then he ran again in 1980. Then he got elected in 1984. And his movement continued to grow. And right before the 1988 Knesset elections, the Kach Party was banned from running by a Labor-Likud coalition. The ban was based on an amendment added to Israel's basic law that disqualified any candidate whose platform included, quote, incitement to racism, end quote. So he was too racist for the Likud Party. So the Likud Party is the party of Benjamin Netanyahu, who's in power today only because they've created a coalition with Itamar Ben-Gvir's Jewish Power Party. Otherwise, they were going to lose that last election if they didn't take the coalition with the successor to the Kach Party, right? And they were the ones that banned the Kach Party. So they were a totally different party back then, obviously. It's also interesting to note that it's too racist for the really, really, really racist Israelis. Like, it's too much for their legislative body to handle. Okay, so then now the guy's going to get assassinated, right? So that was just before the 88 elections. Their party was banned. In November 5th, 1990, he's going to be assassinated in New York City. Basically, they come out of I don't know if it was a church service or speech. He comes out, but it was to a bunch of Orthodox Jews. And so they're all standing around a bunch of Orthodox Jews talking, and an Orthodox Jew walks up and shoots him. It was a Egyptian-born Arab who's an American citizen now, dressed as an Orthodox Jew. I know this is a whole thing. Shot him. He's gonna die. It's interesting story though. The guy who did it runs off and goes to steal a car. But the postman is there in New York City. The postman is walking by. Of course, he can't allow this, or maybe he's in front of the post office. The postman can't let him do it. So the postman, who obviously carries a firearm, because, why wouldn't a postman carry a firearm to protect his neighborhood, pulls out a firearm, says, stick him up. The guy turns around, shoots him. The postman took one in the belly. The assassin took one in the chin, but then he just restrained him after that, the postman did, and they captured him. So then this assassin, his name is El Sayed Nosser, I'm just going to say. He gets convicted of a bunch of things, but not the actual assassination, like for shooting the postman and such. And basically, one of the reasons why they can't convict him is because that the Orthodox Jews didn't allow them to pull the bodies out of Meir Kahane, so they couldn't use the ballistics evidence that the bullets even came from his gun, because of their religious beliefs, right? So then this guy, Nosser, the assassin, ends up going to prison in Attica, right? And this guy is like so revered that he had done this, that they literally plot an escape, right? At Attica Correctional Facility. The blind Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman was arrested in New York for, basically he had a terrorist cell, and they conducted detailed surveillance of Attica facilities and discussed a plan to use a truck bomb attack combined with an armed assault to rescue Nosser from prison. right? So I think that's pretty interesting. And the thing that's interesting about that is that it's this assassination of Meir Kahane was looked at as just a killing. It was a killing on the streets by somebody who had a grief with him, right? And then history starts playing itself out. And then all of a sudden people look back at one point and they say, that moment was the beginning of Arab terrorism in the United States. Pretty interesting, right? I think it is because, we got stuck in that whole just ridiculous nonsense. And this is the point that they later predetermined was predetermined is not the right word, but they ended up deciding that this was the beginning of terrorism. So then Nosser, if we just go down that line a little bit, Nosser then confesses to a bunch of stuff because how it works is when you're in a state prison, you're in a state prison. That's just all there is to it. You're in Attica. That's it. You can go to another state prison. But if you were to confess to a federal crime and take a sentence federally that's not longer than your current sentence and you run them concurrently, you can be transferred to a federal penitentiary, which is the benefit you gain from confessing at that point, is that you get now better treatment out of a state facility. New York, you don't want to be in New York State Prison. So he confessed to some other stuff, but he also confessed to federal agents that he assassinated Kahane, because I'm not sure if he got acquitted or if they just couldn't decide on that, whatever. But then he confessed at that point. So going back to Meir Kahane, right? So his movement continues on without him, and it's called Kahanism, as we said earlier. And basically, so his son, Meir Kahane's son, whose name is, Benjamin Zev, was his son, who had created an offshoot party of the Kach Party called Kahane Chai, which means Kahane lives. And basically, they were both designated as terrorist organizations they were both designated as terrorist organizations by both Israeli government and the U.S. State Department. And then the reason why is because of Baruch Goldstein going in and shooting the 34 Muslims in prayer at Al-Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron, right? So we did a whole episode on this. And I'm going to link it in the description below if you haven't seen it. It's a little older. Victor's in that one. It's an interesting episode, and it ties into future stuff, because when we get to the Jewish Power Party on Tuesday, and we're talking about Itamar Ben Gvir, right? This Star Wars name, sorry. We're going to talk about him, and there's part of his story where he's getting a interview, and there's a picture of Baruch Goldstein on the wall. The guy who killed the 34 Muslims, right? That's how extreme these people are. That Christians would support these people is insane. And the reporter even asked him, hey, what do you tell your son when your son says, who is that man? And he says something like, he was a great man and a patriot or something, This guy's a scumbag, Baruch Goldstein, real scumbag. So that was in 1994. Then after that, Benjamin Zev Kahane made waves by condoning Yigal Amir's 1995 assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, which we also did an episode on. I'll put that one below. And the point of that episode was that Israel can never have peace with its neighbors, because any peace candidate, like Yitzhak Rabin, was a full-on war criminal. Hang him. He was a terrible human being. And then at the end, he decided, no, let's make peace with these people, these Arabs, And every time that happens, what happens? An extremist comes out and kills them. Even on the Palestinian side, you remember in Iraq when a Palestinian leader will decide, you know what, we should have peace with these Israelis. Then they send the Mossad and come out there and kill, or IDF Special Forces. They come out there and kill the guy, because the problem is they can't have peace. The internal workings of Israel won't allow the Palestinians to have a peaceful stance towards them, or they'll take out that opposition. The peaceful opposition, which is hilarious. I mean, it's terrible. I'm sorry. It's ironic. I don't know what it is. And then on the Israel side, the right-wing extremists will take out any politicians who push for peace in Israel. And so Meir Kahane founded this ideology that gets you to, I'm going to put I'll put the Jewish Virtual Library reference below, and you can read it if you want, but it gets to, you'll see specific events happening, and they'll be like, oh, there's a bunch of settlers, illegally settling. The UN has said that these are all illegal, these settlements in the West Bank, and they've ordered them to remove them. Of course, Israel doesn't care about the United Nations. The U.S. will veto anything they do anyways on their behalf. And so they got these illegal settlements, and these people who are saying, hey, I'm just going to go take this guy's house, right? These are the Kahanist type people. Now, I'm not guaranteeing they are Kahanists, but like when you see a video on X or something of food supply trucks on flatbeds going to help Gaza as they're being genocided. And you see the Jews literally stop the vehicle, and just start throwing all the stuff in a ditch, just throwing it off the truck, food, because they're hoping these people die. You see a ton of these videos, both from the Rafah crossing and from the other crossings. And these type of people are these Kahanist type people who do this extreme ideology. And so then when I was researching this, I was thinking, well, I'm an ethno-nationalist. Would I be Meir Kahane if I was an Israeli Jew? And the answer is no, because I'm a decent human being, right? Now I might be if I was an Israeli Jew, because I might have been raised by the Talmud and all that, and then I would just be a terrible person. So then I wouldn't be me, and the question doesn't matter. The question matters me being who I am. Would I? And the answer is no, because I believe in treating people well. I don't care if they deserve the treatment. Well, I do. I do care to varying levels. Like I've talked about before, with the ethno-nationalism in the United States, I would treat people differently. I would treat illegal immigrants way worse, not end them, not hurt them, just boot them just immediately, And then law-abiding citizens who came after the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, I would treat them a different way, because they made a pact with the country, and the pact was a complete treason against the native population, and that's garbage. But they should be treated with a certain way. Everybody who's here before 1965, I would treat even better, because they have a long history with the country, but you just don't belong. And then that would include people whose ancestors are slaves and stuff like that. And then people who, like the Native Americans or the American Indians, however you want to do that, I would treat them very well, because this is their land and we now have it, and they should get a really fair shake of the United States wealth and opportunities and stuff like that. But they should be able to do it for themselves as a group, for their own ethnicity. You see where I'm going with that? And so I wouldn't treat people terribly. And this guy, it's the means that he's using. He's saying that all means justify the ends. And I say, no, I want to get to that end, but I'll do it in a good way. Because if not, then I just become like this piece of garbage that I've been telling you about, and then there's no point in achieving the end if you lose yourself, your children, because your children are just going to be what? Look at his son, Benjamin Zev Kahane. He just became the same guy as the father. I don't want that to happen to my children if I'm going to be a terrible person. Anyways, that's what I got for you. I think it was an interesting topic to discuss. Tuesday, we're going to do the Jewish Power Party, and I don't know what's going to be Thursday, but I'm working on some terrific stuff. I got this, I got some emails, from Mr. Stark, and he's done wildly good research on the Disputation of Paris, which is where they put the Talmud on trials. And you will not believe the stuff that's going to be in this, and he's just sending me PDFs of books and all types of great stuff. It's wild what I'm finding out about this. And it's gonna shore up a lot of stuff on the Talmud, because I had some reservations recently, if you haven't noticed. But like I said, I was gonna stop using that. There's a verse in there that says that the Son of God is boiling and with Satan and hot excrement. Like, I don't want to say this stuff. It's so terrible. But like my PDF Bible doesn't have that in it. The PDF Talmud, I'm sorry. And so I'm not even saying that anymore, because I can't prove that it's in there. But the deal is this: if all of this stuff that Donan made the accusations on they went and seized all of the Talmuds in Paris, and they went and seized them all in 1237, I believe. And then they used those Talmuds to provide the evidence that the excommunicated Jew, who's now a monk, now a Christian monk, he's using against them to condemn the Talmud. So if it was in the Talmud in 1237, you can't say, well, it's not your Talmud that's in 2025, your PDF version. Obviously, there's some forgery going on there, because these are legitimate. You see this in everybody's Talmud in Paris. It's a real thing. Anyways, those episodes are coming in the future. I'm very excited about it. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I appreciate everybody for your thoughts and prayers on the about the baby thing. I'll keep you updated. I'm optimistic that it's going to go great. Anyways, hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope to see you next week.